Las Vegas, the 22nd of November 1965, the same date 2 years earlier, when bullets tore through a Dallas motorcade and changed America forever. Now, on this anniversary of death, another kind of violence would unfold under the bright lights of the Las Vegas Convention Center, the kind that would make 8,000 people wish they'd stayed home, the kind that would transform a boxing match into something darker, something that felt less like sport and more like public execution. But here's what nobody tells you about that night. The real story didn't happen in the ring. It happened 3 hours later in a quiet hotel room, when the most hated man in America knocked on a door and did something that would haunt him for the rest of his life. This is the story of how Muhammad Ali became the villain and then apologized. To understand what happened in that ring, you have to understand 1965 America, the America that was burning. Malcolm X had been assassinated 9 months earlier, the 21st of February 1965, the Audubon Ballroom in Harlem. 16 shotgun pellets and 45 caliber bullets, ending the life of a man who dared to say that black people didn't need to love their oppressors. Muhammad Ali had been there, in that orbit, learning from Malcolm, listening to him, becoming something more than just a fighter. Malcolm's death had changed him, hardened him, made him understand that being loved by white America meant nothing if it required you to betray yourself. The civil rights movement was reaching its breaking point. Selma had happened. Bloody Sunday. State troopers beating peaceful marchers with billy clubs on the Edmund Pettus Bridge while the nation watched on television. President Johnson had signed the Voting Rights Act in August, but the ink was barely dry and the South was already finding ways around it. And in the middle of all this chaos, all this blood and rage and transformation, stood two black men with completely different ideas about how to survive in a country that wanted them dead. Muhammad Ali, though the world still called him Cassius Clay, still refused to acknowledge his conversion to Islam, still treated his name like a joke, was 23 years old. The heavyweight champion of the world, fast, beautiful, impossible to hit, impossible to shut up. He'd beaten Sonny Liston twice, though the second fight was so controversial that half the country believed it was fixed. He was everything white America feared: confident, defiant, unapologetic, Muslim, and absolutely refusing to be grateful for his success. He said things like, "I don't have to be what you want me to be." He said, "I'm free to be who I want." He aligned himself with Elijah Muhammad and the Nation of Islam, an organization that white America viewed as a terrorist group, a black supremacist cult, a danger to the American way of life. He was beautiful and terrifying, a butterfly that could sting like a hornet and then tell you about it in perfect rhyme. But what's truly shocking is this: Ali wasn't even the most hated black athlete in America that year. That distinction might have gone to Jim Brown, the football player who refused to apologize for dating white women, or Bill Russell, the basketball player who called Boston a flea market of racism. But Ali was close, very close, because Ali had the audacity to be Muslim, to reject his slave name, to speak about white people with the same contempt they'd shown his people for 400 years. And then there was Floyd Patterson. Floyd Patterson was 30 years old, two-time heavyweight champion, the youngest man ever to win the title at 21. A thoughtful, quiet, deeply religious man who'd grown up in poverty in Brooklyn, who'd overcome his childhood shyness and fear through boxing. He'd lost his title to Sonny Liston in 1962, knocked out in the first round in a performance so humiliating that he'd worn a disguise to leave the arena. He'd lost the rematch even faster. And then, miraculously, he'd fought his way back into contention. But Floyd Patterson was more than just a fighter. He was a symbol. White America loved Floyd Patterson because Floyd Patterson knew his place. He didn't make noise, didn't cause trouble, didn't challenge the system. He was what they called, in the ugly language of the time, a good Negro, the kind who smiled and said, "Yes, sir," and "Thank you, sir," and made white people comfortable, the kind who made them feel good about themselves, feel like maybe they weren't racist after all, because look, we love Floyd Patterson, and he's black, so clearly we're not the problem. Patterson had written an article for Sports Illustrated titled Cassius Clay Must Be Beaten. Not Muhammad Ali, Cassius Clay. He refused to use Ali's Muslim name, refused to acknowledge his conversion, called it a phase, a publicity stunt, a betrayal of his race. Patterson said he wanted to win the title back for America, as if the title had been stolen, as if Ali was holding it hostage. This was the knife that cut deepest. Ali could handle white America hating him, he expected that, almost welcomed it. But Floyd Patterson, a black man, refusing to call him by his name, claiming he was going to save the heavyweight title from a Muslim, that was betrayal, that was collaboration, that was a black man doing white supremacy's work for them. And Ali was going to make him pay. The Las Vegas Convention Center, capacity 8,000, was sold out. But the atmosphere wasn't electric with anticipation, it was heavy with dread. The kind of dread you feel before something terrible happens, before a car accident, before bad news, before violence that can't be undone. Floyd Patterson entered first. White trunks, white shoes, white towel around his shoulders. Everything clean, everything proper, everything the way it should be. The crowd gave him a standing ovation. Not because they loved Floyd Patterson, though, some did, but because he wasn't Muhammad Ali. He was the alternative, the acceptable option, the lesser evil. Then came Ali, red trunks, red shoes, moving like he was walking on air, beautiful, dangerous. The crowd booed, not scattered boos, not polite disapproval. A wall of sound, of hate, of rage, washing over him like sewage. 8,000 people screaming their contempt. And Ali smiled, because he'd already won something more important than this fight. He'd won his freedom. He was going to be himself, completely, totally, unapologetically, and if they hated him for it, that was their problem. But there was something in his eyes that night, something colder than usual, something that said this wasn't going to be a boxing match. This was going to be a statement. Round 1. Ali didn't dance. That's the first thing that was wrong. Ali always danced, always moved, always made his opponents chase him around the ring like children chasing butterflies. But tonight, he walked straight at Patterson, stalking him, jabbing him. Not to hurt him, not yet, but to measure him, to find his range, to let Patterson know that there was nowhere to run. Patterson tried his signature peek, a boot defense, gloves held high, elbows protecting his body, moving his head behind his hands. It had worked against everyone else. It failed against Ali. The jabs came through anyway, snapping Patterson's head back. 1, 2, 3, 4, peppering him like rain. Round 2. Patterson's back started hurting. An old injury, a herniated disc that he'd been managing with medication and prayer. The kind of injury that ends careers if you're not careful. And Ali's body shots were finding it. Left hook to the ribs, right cross to the spine. Not knockout punches, but accumulation. Damage building like interest. Patterson winced. Ali saw it. And that's when everything changed. Round 3. Ali could have ended it here. Should have ended it here. Patterson was hurt, slow, compromised. One good combination and the referee stops it. Everyone goes home. But Ali didn't want that. Didn't want mercy. Didn't want a clean knockout that people could respect. He wanted something else. "What's my name?" Ali screamed, loud enough for the ringside press to hear, loud enough for Patterson to hear. "What's my name?" Jab. "What's my name?" Jab. "What's my name?" Jab. "Say my name." Patterson tried to fight back. Threw a right hand that missed. Ali slipped it easily, came back with a 4-punch combination that snapped Patterson's head back and forth like a speed bag. The crowd gasped. Not in excitement, in horror. Round 4. Patterson's left eye was swelling shut. His back was screaming. Every breath hurt. Every movement hurt. He was a professional fighter, one of the greatest of his generation, and he was being systematically dismantled by a man 3 years younger who was making it look easy. But here's what made it unbearable. Ali wasn't trying to knock him out. He was holding back. You could see it. The punches were hard enough to hurt, fast enough to land, but not hard enough to end it. Ali was keeping Patterson conscious, keeping him upright, keeping him suffering. "What's my name, Uncle Tom?" Ali screamed. The words cut deeper than any punch. "Say it! Say my name!" Patterson tried to answer, tried to fight back, but his body was breaking. His back locked up. He stumbled. Ali caught him, not to help him, to hold him up, to keep him in range, to hit him more. Round 5. The referee, Harry Krause, was starting to look concerned. Concerned isn't even the right word, disturbed. He'd refereed hundreds of fights. He knew the difference between a competitive match and an execution. This was an execution. But Patterson wouldn't quit, wouldn't go down, wouldn't give Ali the satisfaction. Ali's corner, between rounds, was silent. Even Angelo Dundee, Ali's trainer, looked uncomfortable. "Finish it," he said quietly. "Just finish it, champ." But Ali shook his head. "Not yet." Round 6. Wait, don't miss this detail. Ali was carrying Patterson now, literally holding him up with one hand while hitting him with the other. The crowd had gone quiet. Even the people who hated Ali, who'd paid to see him lose, couldn't watch this anymore. Women were crying, men were leaving. This wasn't sport. This wasn't boxing. This was torture. "What's my name?" Ali screamed again. His voice was hoarse now, raw with rage and something else, something that might have been pain. "Say my name." Patterson, through swollen lips, finally whispered it. "Ali." But Ali didn't stop. Rounds 7 through 12. I won't describe them all. Can't describe them all. It was just more of the same. More punishment. More cruelty. More of Floyd Patterson being broken, piece by piece, in front of the world. His back gave out completely in round 9. He couldn't throw right hands anymore, could barely lift his arms. But he wouldn't quit, and Ali wouldn't let him off the hook. By round 12, Patterson's face was a mask of blood and swelling. He could barely see, could barely stand. The referee finally stopped it. 12 rounds. 12 rounds of systematic destruction. 12 rounds of Ali proving that he could do whatever he wanted to Floyd Patterson, and there was nothing Patterson could do to stop him. The crowd didn't cheer, didn't boo, just sat in stunned silence as Ali raised his arms in victory, a victory that felt like a crime. And here's what nobody saw. As Ali walked back to his corner, his hands were shaking. Not from exhaustion, from something else. Something that looked a lot like regret. The Dunes Hotel. 3 hours after the fight. Floyd Patterson's room was on the 8th floor, corner suite, overlooking the neon wasteland of the Las Vegas Strip. Outside, the city was alive, slot machines dinging, tourists laughing, the endless mechanical optimism of a town built on losing. Inside, it was a hospital room without the equipment. Patterson sat on the edge of the bed, shirtless, ice packs taped to his back and ribs. His left eye was swollen completely shut, a purple-black mass that looked like a tumor. His right eye wasn't much better. His doctor, a thin white man with tired eyes named Dr. Samuel Klein, was wrapping his ribs with medical tape, moving slowly, carefully, trying not to cause more pain than necessary. "Anything broken?" Patterson asked. His voice was a whisper, partly from exhaustion, partly because his jaw hurt to move. "2 cracked ribs," Dr. Klein said. "The back injury is worse than before. You need to see a specialist. No more fights for at least 6 months, maybe longer." Patterson nodded slowly. 6 months. Longer. Maybe never. He was 30 years old, and his body was telling him the truth. It was over. Not just this fight, the whole thing. His career, his dream of being champion again. Everything. The room smelled like liniment and ice and something else, the copper smell of blood that had been wiped away but lingered in the air like a ghost. The only sound was the air conditioning, a low mechanical hum that somehow made the silence louder. Dr. Klein finished wrapping the ribs, packed his bag, told Patterson to call if anything changed, and left. The door clicked shut with a finality that sounded like a coffin closing. Patterson was alone. He wanted to cry but couldn't. Wanted to sleep, but his mind wouldn't stop replaying it, round after round, punch after punch. Ali's voice screaming, "What's my name?" like a demon. The crowd's silence, which was somehow worse than booing. The moment in round 9 when he'd realized Ali wasn't trying to knock him out, was prolonging it, was enjoying it. And the worst part, the absolute worst part, was that Patterson understood why. He'd called him Cassius Clay, had refused to use his Muslim name in print, in interviews, in the promotion of the fight, had said he was going to win the title back for America, as if Ali was un-American, as if being Muslim disqualified you from being a citizen, had aligned himself, intentionally or not, with every white person who wanted Ali to shut up and be grateful. Patterson had thought he was being principled, thought he was defending tradition, defending the sport, defending some idea of dignity and respect. But Ali saw it differently. Ali saw a black man doing white supremacy's work, saw an Uncle Tom, saw a traitor, and Ali had punished him for it. Patterson reached for the phone on the nightstand, thought about calling his wife, then put it back down. What would he say? That he'd been beaten? She already knew that. Everyone knew that. That it hurt? Of course it hurt. That he was sorry? For what? For losing? For being himself? There was a knock at the door. Patterson froze. His first thought was reporters they'd been camped out in the lobby, hungry for quotes, for tears, for some reaction they could print. His second thought was doctor. Klein coming back because he'd forgotten something. His third thought, another knock, louder this time. Floyd, a voice. Male, young, familiar. Patterson's blood went cold. It was Muhammad Ali. Patterson didn't move, couldn't move. His body hurt too much and his mind couldn't process what was happening. Why would Ali be here? To gloat? To finish the humiliation? To make sure Patterson understood exactly how thoroughly he'd been beaten? "Floyd, I know you're in there," Ali said through the door. His voice was different now, quieter, softer, missing the thunder and poetry that usually filled every syllable. "Please, I need to talk to you." Patterson considered not answering, considered pretending to be asleep or gone or dead, considered anything that would avoid facing the man who just spent 12 rounds destroying him in front of the world. But Floyd Patterson had never run from anything in his life. Not poverty, not fear, not Sonny Liston. And he wasn't going to start now. "It's open," he said. The door opened slowly. Muhammad Ali stepped inside and closed it behind him. He was wearing a dark suit, white shirt, thin black tie, no jewelry, no flash, no Muhammad Ali swagger. He looked like a man going to a funeral. Maybe he was. For a long moment, they just looked at each other, the victor and the vanquished, the champion and the challenger, the Muslim and the Christian, the villain and the hero, though nobody was quite sure anymore which was which. Ali's eyes moved over Patterson's injuries, the swollen face, the taped ribs, the way Patterson was sitting like an old man trying not to break. Something flickered across Ali's face. Regret? Shame? It was there and then gone, buried under whatever armor he'd built to survive being Muhammad Ali. "You look terrible," Ali said finally. "Yeah, well," Patterson said, "you did that." Silence again. Heavy. Uncomfortable. The air conditioning hummed. Ali walked further into the room, slowly, hands in his pockets, moving like he wasn't sure he was allowed to be there. He stopped about 6 feet away, far enough to not be threatening, close enough to talk without shouting. "I'm sorry," Ali said. Patterson blinked. Of all the things he'd expected Ali to say, gloating, anger, more insults about being an Uncle Tom, an apology wasn't on the list. "For what?" Patterson asked. "For winning?" "No," Ali said. "For how I won." Patterson tried to sit up straighter, winced, gave up. "You beat me. That's the sport. That's what we do." "That wasn't sport, Floyd." Ali's voice was quiet but firm. "That was something else. That was me. That was me trying to kill something. And you got caught in it." "Kill what?" "Cassius Clay," Ali said. The name fell from his lips like a curse. "I was trying to kill Cassius Clay, and you were the only one trying to keep him alive." Patterson stared at him, his good eye trying to read Ali's face, trying to understand if this was real or just another performance. Muhammad Ali was the greatest showman in sports. Everything he did was calculated for effect. But this didn't feel calculated. This felt raw. "You want to know why I wouldn't call you Ali?" Patterson asked. "I know why." "No, you don't. You think you do, but you don't." Patterson shifted slightly, pain shooting through his ribs, but he kept talking. "I didn't call you Ali because I was scared, Muhammad. Not of you, of what you represent." "And what's that?" "Anger," Patterson said. "Pure anger. You're so angry at white people, so angry at this country, so angry at anyone who doesn't agree with you that you can't see straight anymore. And I get it, I do. They've given us every reason to be angry. But anger like yours, anger that big, it destroys everything it touches, including you." Ali's jaw tightened. "You think I'm wrong to be angry? I think anger without love is just rage, and rage gets people killed." Patterson paused, breathing through the pain. Malcolm X was angry, and he's dead. Martin Luther King is angry, and they're going to kill him too. I can see it coming. And you're so angry, you just spent 12 rounds torturing a man who never did anything to you except disagree with you. You did more than disagree, Ali said, his voice rising slightly. You disrespected my faith, my name, my identity. Your name? Patterson almost laughed, but it hurt too much. That's what this was about? You nearly crippled me because I wouldn't call you the name some cult leader gave you? It's not a cult. Yes, it is, Patterson said, louder now, finding strength he didn't know he had. And you know it is. Elijah Muhammad is controlling you, Muhammad. He's using you, using your fame, your platform, your anger, and turning it into his power. And you can't see it because he gave you something you needed. He gave you permission to hate white people openly instead of quietly like the rest of us do. Silence. Complete silence. Ali stood frozen, his face unreadable. Then he said very quietly, I don't hate white people. Yes, you do. I hate what they've done to us. What's the difference? Patterson asked. When you're screaming about blue-eyed devils and white America and oppressors, when does the ideology end and the hate begin? When does fighting the system become just hating people for how they were born? Ali sat down on the chair across from Patterson's bed. Suddenly, he looked very young, 23 years old. A kid from Louisville who'd won an Olympic gold medal and come home to a country that wouldn't let him eat at certain restaurants. A kid who'd found Islam in a new name and a new purpose, and was now the most famous athlete in the world and the most hated man in America. You don't understand, Ali said. You can't understand. You've been the good one your whole life, the acceptable one, the one they point to and say, see, not all of them are bad. Floyd Patterson is a good Negro. You've been their token. They're proof that the system works, that if we just work hard and smile and say yes, sir, enough times, they'll accept us. And what have you been? Patterson asked. Their nightmare, the uppity Negro who won't know his place, the scary black Muslim who might start a race war. You think being feared is better than being accepted? I think being feared is more honest than being tolerated. Patterson shook his head slowly. You didn't just beat me tonight, Muhammad. You tried to destroy me. In front of the whole world, you tried to humiliate me, break me, make me an example. Why? To prove what? That you're powerful, that you're right, that anyone who doesn't submit to Muhammad Ali and his beliefs deserves to be punished? Ali started, then stopped. His hands were trembling slightly. I didn't want to hurt you, Floyd. Then why did you? Because you wouldn't say my name. Ali's voice cracked. You stood there on national television, in Sports Illustrated, in every interview, and you called me Cassius Clay. You told the world that my faith was a joke, my name was a publicity stunt, that I was betraying my race by being Muslim. Do you know what that felt like? To have another black man, someone I respected, tell the world that I wasn't real? Patterson was quiet for a moment. Then, is that what I did? Yes. Then I'm sorry, Patterson said. And he meant it. I was wrong. I was scared of what you represented, scared of the Nation of Islam, scared of the anger, and I took it out on your name, your identity, and that was wrong. Ali looked up, surprised. You're apologizing to me? For that part, yes. Patterson winced as he adjusted his position. But I'm not apologizing for disagreeing with you. I'm not apologizing for believing that love is stronger than hate. And I'm not apologizing for calling out the Nation of Islam for what it is, a cult that preaches separation and supremacy instead of equality. It's not. Yes, it is, Patterson said firmly. And deep down, you know it is. Elijah Muhammad doesn't want equality, Muhammad. He wants power, and he's using you to get it. And one day, when you're not useful anymore, when you get older or lose or say the wrong thing, he's going to throw you away like Malcolm X. Ali flinched at the name. Malcolm X, the man who'd introduced him to the Nation of Islam, who'd been his friend, his mentor, his brother. The man who'd broken with Elijah Muhammad and been murdered for it. The man whose death Ali had been strangely quiet about, publicly at least, because the nation had ordered him to be. Malcolm made a mistake, Ali said quietly. He turned against the messenger. Malcolm told the truth, Patterson countered. He saw what Elijah Muhammad really was, and he told the truth, and they killed him for it. And you said nothing. You, his friend, said nothing, because you were more afraid of Elijah Muhammad than you were loyal to your friend. Ali stood up suddenly, knocking the chair back. You don't know what you're talking about. Don't I? Patterson looked at him steadily with his one good eye. You came here to apologize, Muhammad, but you haven't apologized yet. Not really. You said sorry for how you won, but you haven't apologized for why. You haven't apologized for using me as a proxy for every white person you're angry at, for every system you can't punch, for every injustice you can't fix. You took it all out on me because I was an acceptable target, a black man who disagreed with you, and you destroyed me for it. Ali stood there, breathing hard, his hands clenched into fists, his eyes wet. For a moment, Patterson thought he might hit him, or leave, or scream. Instead, Ali did something unexpected. He knelt down. Right there, on the hotel room floor, Muhammad Ali, heavyweight champion of the world, the most famous athlete alive, knelt down in front of Floyd Patterson and let the tears come. I'm sorry, Ali said, his voice breaking. I'm so sorry, Floyd. You're right. About all of it. I was angry and I took it out on you. I wanted to hurt someone, anyone, and you were there. And you wouldn't say my name, and I couldn't stop. Even when I knew it was wrong, even when I could see I was hurting you too much, I couldn't stop. Because if I stopped, if I showed mercy, they'd think I was weak. They'd think Muhammad Ali was just Cassius Clay pretending to be strong. And I can't be weak. I can't be Cassius Clay ever again. Because Cassius Clay was the slave. Cassius Clay was the one who smiled for white people and said, yes, sir, and won a gold medal and came home and still couldn't eat at Woolworths. Muhammad Ali is free. Muhammad Ali doesn't apologize. Muhammad Ali doesn't compromise. Muhammad Ali is strong. And if I stop being strong for even 1 second, he didn't finish, didn't have to. Patterson understood that Muhammad Ali wasn't just a name or a persona, it was armor, protection against a world that wanted to destroy him. And tonight, for 12 rounds, that armor had made him a monster. Patterson reached out slowly, every movement painful, and put his hand on Ali's shoulder. You can be Muhammad Ali and still be human, Patterson said quietly. You can be strong and still show mercy. You can be angry at the system and still love the people in it. They're not contradictions, Muhammad. They're just harder. They require more courage than just rage. Ali looked up at him, tears streaming down his face. I don't know how to do that. Neither do I, Patterson admitted. But we have to figure it out, because if we don't, if we just choose anger and hate and revenge, then we become exactly what they say we are. We prove them right, and I refuse to do that. I refuse to let them win. They stayed like that for a long time. Two fighters who just tried to kill each other, now kneeling together in a hotel room, trying to figure out how to be human instead of symbols, trying to figure out how to survive in a country that wanted them to be anything except themselves. Finally, Ali stood up, wiped his eyes with his sleeve, tried to compose himself. "I should go," he said. "Yeah," Patterson said. "You should." Ali walked to the door, stopped, turned back. "Floyd?" "Yeah?" "I'll never call you an Uncle Tom again. And I'll tell people to call me Ali, but I won't hate them if they don't. Not anymore." Patterson nodded. "And I'll call you Muhammad. Not because I agree with everything you stand for, but because it's your name, and everyone deserves to be called by their name." Ali smiled slightly, a real smile, not the showman's grin he wore for cameras. "Maybe we'll fight again someday." "Maybe," Patterson said, "but next time, just knock me out quick." Ali laughed, opened the door, and left. Patterson sat there alone again, but the silence felt different now, lighter, like something had been lifted, some weight he'd been carrying without realizing it. Outside, Las Vegas continued its mechanical dance. Inside, two men had found something more valuable than victory, or pride, or being right. They'd found understanding. And in 1965 America, that was revolutionary. The fight itself would be mostly forgotten, not because it wasn't important, but because Muhammad Ali's career was just beginning. Bigger fights were coming. George Foreman, Joe Frazier, the Thrilla in Manila, Vietnam and exile and return. Ali would become more than a boxer. He'd become a global icon, a symbol of resistance, proof that you could stand up to power and survive. But in private moments, in interviews years later when Ali's voice had softened and his hands had stilled from Parkinson's, he would sometimes mention Floyd Patterson, would say that night in Las Vegas taught him something important about the difference between strength and cruelty, about winning and destroying, about being right and being good. Floyd Patterson would fight for 7 more years, never winning the championship again, but never stopping trying. He'd become a respected elder statesman of boxing, a commentator, a trainer, a man who built a life beyond the ring. And when people would ask him about the Ali fight, about that terrible night in Vegas, he would say simply, "Muhammad and I had a disagreement, and we settled it, and then we understood each other." Years later, when Ali was struggling with Parkinson's, when his hands shook and his voice was barely a whisper, Floyd Patterson would visit him. They'd sit together, two old fighters, and talk about everything except boxing, about faith, about family, about what it meant to be black in America, about choices they'd made and roads they'd taken and whether any of it mattered. And sometimes, Ali would take Patterson's hand, the hand that couldn't hurt him anymore, and say very quietly, "I'm sorry, Floyd, for that night. I'm so sorry." And Patterson would squeeze back and say, "I know, Muhammad. I know." Because that's the thing about violence, it can break bones and rupture organs and end careers. But sometimes, if you're lucky, if you're brave enough to face what you've done and why you've done it, violence can also create understanding. And understanding, in the end, is worth more than any championship belt. Las Vegas, the 22nd of November 1965. The night Muhammad Ali became the villain, and then apologized. Not in public, not for the cameras, but in a quiet hotel room, on his knees, tears streaming down his face, asking forgiveness from the man he tried to destroy. History remembers the fight, but the truth happened after.